You help someone. You give your time, your money, your energy, sometimes your silence, because you chose not to say what you really thought so they wouldn't feel judged. And then, months later, that same person is the one criticizing you. Distancing themselves. Or worse, turning people against you. Here's what the data says: in studies on social reciprocity, people who receive unsolicited or significant help report higher levels of discomfort and lower self-esteem than those who receive nothing at all. Not gratitude. Discomfort. The help itself became a wound. Socrates wouldn't be surprised. Not even a little. Because 2,400 years ago, sitting in the marketplace of Athens, talking to strangers, generals, poets, and politicians, he already understood something that most people still refuse to see: we almost never know what we think we know. Including what it actually means to help someone. Today, we're going to walk through 9 uncomfortable truths about why the people you help end up resenting you, anchored in the thinking of Socrates, translated into the world you live in right now. Stay until the end. Because the last truth doesn't just change how you help. It changes who you are when you give. The first truth: helping shifts power. And power imbalance hurts. Think about the last time you helped someone in a significant way. Not holding a door open really helped. Financially. Professionally. Emotionally. The moment you did that, something invisible happened in the relationship. You became the one who has. They became the one who needed. And here's the part no one admits: that shift has a weight to it. Not because you intended to create it, but because the human mind tracks these things automatically, below the surface. The moment someone receives something they couldn't provide for themselves, a quiet ledger opens. They owe you something, and they didn't ask to owe you anything. Socrates spent his days questioning the people of Athens. And the ones who hated him most weren't strangers. They were the people he had publicly shown to be wrong, the people who had, in front of others, been revealed as less than they thought they were. The help of truth, it turned out, felt like humiliation. The second truth: receiving can feel like losing. There's a word in Greek philosophy, doxa, that Socrates used constantly. It means opinion. The image we hold of ourselves and the world. And Socrates believed that most of what we call knowledge is really just doxa, comfortable stories we tell ourselves about who we are. One of those stories is, I am capable. I handle my own problems. I don't need to be saved. When you help someone, you don't just give them a resource. You give them evidence that contradicts that story. And some people would rather reject the evidence, reject you, than update the story. This isn't weakness. It's how the mind protects itself. The question is whether you're going to keep being surprised by it. The third truth: gratitude has an expiration date. In the beginning, they're grateful. Genuinely. The relief is real, the warmth is real, the thank you is real. But time passes. The immediate crisis fades. And what remains isn't the memory of the help, it's the memory of having needed it. The heavier the help, the heavier that memory. And at some point, the emotional debt stops feeling like something they want to repay and starts feeling like something they want to escape. You become associated with a version of themselves they'd rather forget. Socrates knew this. He was tried and convicted not by his enemies, but by 500 citizens of Athens, a city he had served, questioned, and loved for decades. The jury wasn't made up of people who hated him. It was made up of people who were tired of being reminded of their own ignorance. Familiarity with a difficult truth eventually becomes resentment of the person who keeps delivering it. The fourth truth: the balance always tips back. No one stays on the lower step forever. If the relationship stays unequal for long enough, if you are always the one giving, the one with solutions, the one arriving with answers, something has to give. Some people rise to meet you. They grow, they close the gap, they become your equal. That's the best outcome. But others tip the balance a different way. They don't climb up. They pull down. A quiet criticism here. A subtle undermining there. A pattern of making you seem smaller in the eyes of people you share. Not because they planned it, but because it restores something the imbalance had taken from them. Socrates asked, "What do you actually know about yourself?" If you don't know what drives you, your need to be needed, your discomfort with others struggling, your tendency to define your own worth through what you give, you will walk into that dynamic blind, every single time. The fifth truth, your success can become their mirror. Sometimes it's not even about the help itself. It's about what you represent. If you are more stable, more disciplined, further along, and the person you're helping is none of those things yet, your presence alone becomes a kind of mirror. Not a flattering one. A confronting one. And here's the thing about mirrors, they don't lie. Which means the only way to make the reflection more comfortable is to break the mirror. This is what Socrates called the flight from knowledge. Not stupidity, most people are not stupid. But the deliberate refusal to look at what's really there. Because looking is uncomfortable. Because what's there requires change. And change is harder than finding someone to blame. The sixth truth, you are not the problem. This one is important. Sit with it. If someone walked away from you after you helped them, if they criticized you, betrayed your trust, disappeared without explanation, that is not evidence that you did something wrong. It is evidence that the human ego is fragile, that emotional debt is heavy, and that some people do not yet have the inner resources to carry what you offered them. Most betrayals are not acts of malice. They are acts of discomfort looking for a target. Understanding that doesn't make it hurt less. But it stops you from building a story about yourself that isn't true, the story that says I shouldn't have helped, I should have known better, something is wrong with me. That story is doxa. It isn't knowledge. The seventh truth, the how matters more than the what. Here is where Socrates is most useful, and most radical. He never gave answers. Not because he didn't have thoughts. But because he understood that an answer handed to someone does something very specific, it tells them, implicitly, that you didn't believe they could find it themselves. There are two kinds of help. One carries the weight for someone. The other walks beside them while they learn to carry it themselves. The first feels more generous in the moment. It's faster, it's cleaner, it produces immediate relief. But it creates a debt the other person didn't consent to, and a subtle, unspoken message about their capacity. The second kind of help is slower. It requires you to hold back. To ask instead of answer. To trust the process even when you could shortcut it. But it leaves the other person with something the first kind never does, the experience of their own competence. Socrates didn't save Athens. He questioned it. He was killed for it. But the questions outlived him by 2.5 millennia. That's what real help looks like. It changes the person. Not the situation. The eighth truth, unexpressed expectations are stored resentments. You help. You say nothing in return. You don't want to seem transactional. You don't want to make it about you. But somewhere underneath the generosity, there is a quiet expectation, loyalty, acknowledgement, reciprocity, the knowledge that what you did was seen and valued. None of that is wrong to want. But you didn't say it. And they can't honor what they don't know. So the expectation sits there, unspoken, slowly curdling. And when it isn't met, not out of malice, but simply because it was never communicated, you experience it as a betrayal. They experience it as confusion. And the gap between those two experiences is where relationships go quiet and cold. Socrates called the unexamined life not worth living. The unexamined gift, the one given without clarity about what you actually need and expect in return, is not worth giving. Not because generosity is wrong. But because unconscious generosity tends to become conscious resentment. The ninth truth, you cannot give what you haven't examined. Know thyself. Carved above the entrance to the oracle at Delphi. The beginning and end of Socratic wisdom. Not know your strengths. Not know your skills. Know yourself, your wounds, your needs, your blind spots. Know why you help. Know what you're looking for when you give. Know whether your generosity is clean, or whether it carries invisible conditions you haven't admitted to yourself. Because if you don't know those things, you don't help people. You project onto them. You give them what you needed, not what they need. You build relationships around your own unexamined hunger for worth, for approval, for proof that you matter. And then you call it love. Socrates went to his death maintaining that the only thing he knew for certain was how much he didn't know. That wasn't modesty. It was the most demanding standard ever set for a human being. Before you presume to know another person well enough to help them, know yourself first. So here's the truth that ties all nine together. The question was never why do people betray you after you help them. The real question is, who were you being when you helped? Were you helping from knowledge, of yourself, of what the other person actually needed, of the invisible dynamics you were walking into? Or were you helping from doxa, from a comfortable story about your own generosity, your own goodness, your own indispensability? Socrates didn't stop questioning people after they turned on him. He kept going until the morning they made him drink the hemlock. Because he understood what most of us haven't yet accepted, the goal was never to be thanked. The goal was to remain awake. To keep examining. To give without losing yourself in the giving. The most dangerous thing you can offer another person is help you haven't thought through. The most powerful thing you can offer them is help that makes you unnecessary.